The beast before them was an incredibly fierce fighter alone with just his bare hands. He was strong enough to rip apart the giant buffalo attacking the nearby merchant caravan, but when they faced him for the first time, the caravan did not know how to react. One buffalo was dead, but right after another beast appeared, nearly 10 feet tall, with nimble movements, glowing eyes, and such terrifying strength. But few knew that he, Leon, had approached the merchant caravan with no malicious intent. Luckily, the buffalo paved the way for him to play the hero. Not everyone knew about his origins. The story goes back about 15 years in the remote and desolate village of Perron. No one knew when this village first appeared, but it remained there day after day, year after year. The village and its people had witnessed countless changes in the forest, until one day a high full moon rose, bathing the entire forest in its shimmering light. A warning was sent to the old village chief, forcing him to drag his old body up the towering fortress walls. To the astonishment and fear of the young soldiers on guard duty, they had informed him that a ferocious monster was standing imposingly before their village gate. The old chief hoped it was a mistake, but when he went to check for himself, he was shocked to see that there really was a monster standing before the gate of Perron village. Strangely, the ogre did not attack the village, it just stood there silently. Looking at the village at its feet was a blonde woman. His name was Robo, the legend of Chanvia, the slayer of all 6 lands. After making sure the humans had seen him, he turned and left, leaving behind the girl who was lying on the ground, barely breathing. Very soon after, the village welcomed the arrival of an Oline child. Even though he was raised like a human by his mother, the villagers were not without fear of him, but instead of following the pleasurable path of his warrior blood, he chose to step back, determined to protect what he held dear. Under the sunset sky, a few travelers were moving, weaving through the trees. A soft sigh was heard on the Perron company's trade route. The sun has already set. A man looked at the map and said, "Oh God, I can't believe we've come this far just to get lost." Someone else hesitantly added, "Being in the forest at this hour is a bit." Bester silently observed his surroundings, his eyes fixed on a part of the forest ahead. Bester slowly asked, "Hey Perron, be honest with me. Is this your first time?" Perron looked around worriedly, his voice trembling as he mumbled, "Yes," hearing his answer. Bester suppressed his anger and complained, "If I had known the route was like this, I would not have taken this contract in the first place. Or I would have hired more than 10 guards. Byron lowered his voice and pleaded, "Bester, come on, no way. You could not have thought this was our first time." He continued to persuade him. "Well, they say that in 15 years even empires can change. But now it feels more like 5 years." Hearing this, Bester just remained silent. Tilok, standing next to Bester, was focused on touching a rock. He finally spoke up. "Bester, if those damn merchants were not lying, does not that mean that some external factors have changed the terrain, as if sensing something?" Bester growled, "Damn it, Tilok." Bester's hand went to the sword at his hip before anyone could react. Bester had already shot forward. The sword in his hand pierced through the monster's body. Bester cautiously retreated towards Tilok, a beast wearing armor made by orcs. Suddenly the two of them realized, "Oh my God, it's a trap." Tilok responded angrily. "Damn it," he yelled to the caravan. "Everyone do not spread out, group up. If you separate, you will be picked off easily immediately." Bester and his comrades gathered together. In the darkness, many pairs of glowing yellow monster eyes appeared suddenly. Tilok asked, "Hey, how many of them do you think there are?" Bester immediately replied, "It's better if we do not count them." Tilok's eyes sharpened as he judged. There coming a beastman's foot with sharp claws and iron greaves appeared. Then a horde of beastmen began to emerge. Bester and his comrades readied their defense. He shouted, "Everyone, be careful." A chaotic battle broke out with everyone fighting against the monsters. Tilok stomped on a monster under his foot and yelled, "Die, you bastard!" The monster raised its claws. Its claws grazed Tilok's face, his helmet shattered and fell to the ground. Tilok clutched his face in pain and collapsed to his knees. Byron hesitated before asking, "Hey, I know they're monsters, but is not this a bit too much?" Tilok fiercely whipped his head towards them. He growled, "Shut up before I slice you into 100 pieces." Hearing his reply, Byron stepped back in fear and said, "I understand." Tilok angrily walked towards his comrades, complaining as he went, "These damn merchants. I will make you pay dearly for this, so you better try to survive." Hearing this, Byron could only tremble and moan, "Now what, Bester?" Bester finally commented, "By now, the ones in hiding must be scared too, but a predator's trap is extremely persistent. So do not let your guard down." Suddenly a horse neighed, its gaze fixed on one direction in terror. Someone from the caravan held the horse back. Byron panicked, pointing where the horse was looking and yelling, "Look over there! Look over there!" Behind the tree, a giant monster gradually appeared. Tilok blurted out in amazement, "A buffalo." The giant monster roared at the group. Bester thought to himself, a buffalo attacking after the Nones. Suddenly the monster touched a large boulder next to it. It lifted the boulder high and with immense force threw the large rock towards a member of the mercenary group. The boulder crashed down, causing everyone to scream in panic. Tilok yelled at the caravan, What do you think you are doing? If we just stay in one place like this, we will be killed in a single blow from that buffalo." Now, Byron and his caravan members were both exhausted and terrified. He lamented, "Oh God, I am exhausted, 10 mercenaries or 100 mercenaries. At this rate, they will all die." Bester gritted his teeth, observing the situation. This is a buffalo joining a hunt by the Nones. Moreover, it's looking for something else to throw. While he was thinking, the monster reached out, fumbling for something. It was still looking around. Bester's eyes were glued to the monster. He secretly speculated, is that a trained beast, a stray weapon of war? Are they mass-producing weapons in this forest? It stopped its actions. Its gaze slowly turned towards Bester's group. Oh God. This is no ordinary trap. Is it even possible to get out of here in one piece? Tilok pointed his sword at him. He demanded, "Do not you die before I pay you." As soon as he finished, Bester started giving him orders. "You two gather the merchants and protect them, and Tilok, the next time that buffalo tries to throw something, lure it away from the merchants." What? Tilok shouted. "You are insane. Bester, are you telling us all to go die? At least if we abandon those useless merchants, we might be able to survive. You have to have a plan, right?" Bester rushed to Tilok's side. "I do. And it's one you know very well." Hearing this, Tilok hesitated. "You do not mean?" Bester confirmed what he was thinking. "That's right. We are going to aim for the moment this buffalo lets its guard down, and then quickly get in between its legs. We have done this many times on the battlefield. Have not we?" The ferocious monster stared intently at them. Tilok watched Bester charge forward and scowled. "Damn it, I would rather die than do that thing again." Bester focused and charged towards the buffalo. Suddenly, looking into the monster's eyes, he realized, wait a minute, where is that buffalo looking under the moonlight? A tall figure shot towards the monster. A blue light flashed from the person's eyes. A single punch knocked the buffalo monster down. To Bester's astonishment, he stopped stammering something somehow. The buffalo monster lay convulsing on the ground. Tilok ran up behind Bester and asked loudly, "Bester, what did you do to make that giant thing collapse?" Suddenly a large, disheveled man appeared before them. The man's hand was covered in the giant monster's blood. He ignored the monster at his feet. He slowly walked towards them. The three of them faced each other in silence. The man took another step closer. He casually picked up the corpse of a beastman and tore off its muzzle. The man slowly brought the muzzle to his own mouth. Witnessing the scene, Tilok cautiously asked Bester what happened and what that thing was. Bester calmly observed and then replied, "You're from the city, so you've probably never heard of this." His gaze turned toward the man over there. Bester began to tell the story. "In this forest, it's known as the most terrifying monster. They say that if we encounter one, we won't be able to make it back alive." A pair of shoes appeared right before his eyes. The man's silhouette stopped in front of Bester. "It's an oregur." He tensed up and thought to himself, "Oh my God, an oregur." Although their numbers are extremely low, the difference in physique made him even more tense. They possess an agility and extraordinary strength unmatched by any other monster. Furthermore, they hunt brutally and have a tyrannical nature. "I can't believe I'd run into an ogre in a forest like this. Something I've only heard about in legends." Meanwhile, Byron pointed toward Bester's group and said, "I can't see who that is. And why are those mercenaries just standing there?" Bester froze, wondering what he should do. Should he run? No. Even if I run, I'll just become its meal. The man silently looked at Bester, then slowly closed his eyes. Under Bester's gaze, he raised his hand, which was stained with Shiso's blood. The man was the first to speak in the silent atmosphere. "You've had a hard time getting here. From now on, I will be your guide." He looked at the seemingly frightened Bester. He then spoke to reassure him. "You don't need to be afraid. Please calm down, even though I look like this." A breeze blew past the group. The man continued, "The same blood flows through me as it does through you." Byron looked at the man in astonishment. The man seriously introduced himself. "My name is Leon. I am a half-human, half-orogry. I am a half-blood." Scene changed to the outskirts of a forest, southwest of Tubinia, near the border of the Anja kingdom, deep within a remote woodland. A watchtower stood within a wooden spike fence. This was Perron village. The guard in the tower seemed to sense a disturbance. He looked down suspiciously. The tall figure of Leon stood there, but from the watchtower's vantage point, he couldn't clearly see who it was. The young man on guard duty called out, "Who's there?" Behind Leon, figures emerged one by one from behind the trees. Perron's whole body trembled. "Oh God, my body is so sore." Tilok grumbled in annoyance. "Those bastards." Beside him, Bester just silently looked up at the tall fence. Before him, Bester thought to himself, "So this is a monster-proof fence?" The young man in the watchtower seemed to recognize Leon. He shouted down, "Wait, is that Leon? It's been a while. Who are these people with you?" Standing below, Leon calmly replied, "Long time no see, Diro. They're a group of merchants here to trade with the village. Diro came to the edge of the watchtower and spoke to them. Leon, I trust you, but I was never informed they'd be arriving at this time. What if they're bandits disguised as merchants? Hearing this, Byron became indignant and yelled an explanation. What's there to be suspicious about? We just got lost in the woods. We strayed from the route the village chief gave us. He angrily shook his fist in the air. Hearing this, Diro remained wary of them regardless of the situation. If you cannot prove your identities, please turn back. The village's security is our top priority. Perron's frustration exploded. This is insane. Then get the village chief out here. Seeing the situation, Leon helplessly scratched his head. He hesitated, then spoke up to explain. If security is that important, then you'll probably need them. On the way here, I heard screams in the forest. Because of the different routes, it's possible someone is causing trouble. We'll need their help, Diro repeated doubtfully. Screams in the forest? Leon laughed it off, assuring him, if anything happens, I'll deal with them. It's no problem. Hearing this, Bester and the others tensed up and turned to look at him. The scene shifts to inside the village. Simple houses and dirt paths came into view. In one part of the village, an annoyed Tylok slammed his empty cup down on the table. Everyone had gathered in the Perron village hall. The village chief heard Perron's story about Leon and burst out laughing. He said he'd take them on if there was trouble? Did Leon really say that? Good heavens. Perron waved his hand helplessly. Oh, just stop it. I was so scared I nearly wet myself under his gaze. He continued with his story. It really felt like we had one foot in the grave. Bester hesitantly spoke up. By the way, I noticed the fence around the village. It seems to surround the entire place. He approached the village chief and continued. Of course, in a remote place like this, there are always monsters and orcs. But this fence seems a bit excessive for just that. I hope I'm wrong, but are you preparing for a war? The village chief remained silent, just a faint smile playing on his lips. From a distance, Tylok overheard their conversation and turned to listen. Leon listened to the conversation but didn't understand. War? What's that? Byron muttered in annoyance. This guy. Bester's sharp gaze was fixed on the village chief, who looked back at him in silence. The chief suddenly let out a chuckle and said, War. That is a truly terrifying thing. You look like a mercenary from the Kincaid Union. The old man reminisced about the wartime past. The village chief began his story seriously. War in my day was about running from the orcs who treated humans as food. Then came the uprising to unite humanity. But now, war is just about slaughtering each other for profit. Leon silently looked at Bester, thinking to himself, so that's war. How disgusting. The old chief. The chief thought of Diro and the watchtower on the village outskirts. He smiled. In any case, I hope that catastrophe never befalls this village. Please understand that the fence was built for the good of the villagers. Suddenly, someone slammed their cup on the table and yelled, Oh, come on! Everyone jumped and looked toward the sound. It was an angry Tylok. What kind of excuse is that? The good of the villagers? You're just covering up for that weapon of war. That fence might just be for show on the outside. But that monster, that damn thing, you think you can justify it just because it can speak human language? Tylok recalled Leon's hand, stained with blood after fighting that Cho. I've never seen anything like it. To crush a Nacho with his bare hands in a single blow. Is this normal in your village? If so, this village isn't just dangerous. He continued to growl his demands. War is a sensitive issue for Kincaid. We need proof that he is not a weapon, and proof that his so-called half-blood lineage is just a coincidence. Gradually, all eyes turned toward Leon and the village chief. Byron spoke up in annoyance. Talking about me like that is completely uncalled for. Bester immediately stood up to shield the chief and Leon, then told Tylok irritably, You've said too much. Hearing what Tylok said about him, Leon was stunned. He finally snapped out of it and spoke helplessly into the tense atmosphere. I don't really understand this accusation, but I know it's not easy to accept me. He raised a hand as he stepped toward his accuser, who was Tylok, and said, If I can't prove I'm not dangerous, then you can step outside. Leon towered over Tylok and said, Fortunately, there is one way to convince you. Have you met my mother? The full moon shone down on the forest, and the wind rustled the grass in front of the fence. A small house appeared in the moonlight. Inside, a small candle flickered. A woman's slender hand gently glided across the page of a book. Peeking past some cooking utensils, the figure of a beautiful woman came into view. On the table, snacks were laid out as if waiting for someone's return. Meanwhile, Leon led a few people toward his home. Tylok caught a strange scent coming from Leon. He asked, What's that smell? What did you do? Leon scratched his head sheepishly and replied, It's urine. I use it to keep monsters from following me. The blonde-haired woman heard a noise outside and turned her head toward the door. The door was pushed open by someone. Leon stood at the door and called out, "Mom, I'm home." The woman's voice replied, "You're late," Leon answered. A few things came up in the village. Tylok followed Leon into the house, but when he looked inside, he froze in surprise. Leon's mother calmly said to him, "So you're back. Welcome home." 15 years ago, on a bright, moonlit night, in a town surrounded by mountains and forests, Perron village, an elder with a long white beard climbed up to where villagers were armed with crossbows. They were standing guard, looking around. Below the watch platform were sharpened wooden fences. Someone asked, "Is it true?" The black-haired man turned and handed the crossbow to the village chief, who stepped forward, took it, and asked about the monster standing right in front of the fence. "What's the current situation? Have you made any calculations?" At the same time, he knocked an arrow on his crossbow. The blonde youth stammered, "We are not too sure ourselves, but you should come and see it with your own eyes." He then pointed straight towards the fence. A strong gust of wind blew the village chief's hair as the old man looked in that direction. A tall monster stood below. The monster's body was covered in scales and sharp spines with mottled stains and a full beard. The three youths on the watchtower were stunned into silence. Suddenly the village chief raised his hand and yelled, "Everyone lower your weapons and back away, now do not provoke it." The old man's voice trembled as he recalled those teeth. "I have seen them in Chunvius, legendary wolf forest monster manual, the slayer of all 6 robo-territories." As the old man spoke, the teeth in the ogre's jaw suddenly grew long, extending out of its mouth. The village chief frowned, giving an order. "My God, why has it appeared here? It is the greatest danger we have ever faced. It can cross the fence easily. We need to gather our weapons immediately." The blonde youth reminded him, "Elder, that's not the strangest part," the brown-haired man added. "We have been observing it closely, but this monster's behavior is unusual. It has been standing completely still for hours," the village chief exclaimed in alarm upon hearing this. The blonde youth hurriedly asked, "Does the guide say anything? What does it want if not to hunt?" The 4 of them fell into a deep silence, looking down at the monster whose crimson eyes glared fiercely at them. The old man had a sudden realization. Could it be? Suddenly, the ogre looked down at the ground where a blonde person lay. The person was wrapped in a tattered cloak, their face obscured. The monster breathed heavily, staring intently, then it turned and walked away. The 4 people on the watchtower did not understand why they could only watch as the ground sank with a whoosh next to the blonde woman. The monster leaped high and left. The brown-haired youth was stunned, then he realized something, pointing down and exclaiming, "Wait!" Both the brown-haired youth and the village chief looked stunned, their faces filled with panic as they stared at the blonde person wrapped in the cloak. Suddenly the woman's hand twitched slightly. He stammered, "Someone is alive over there." Scene change. The door opened and Tylok and Buster walked in. On the bed was a blonde woman with one eye covered and wearing a ring on her index finger while holding a book. Currently in a house near Perron village, a tall Leon excitedly called out, "Mom, cheese and smoked ham, this is so delicious." The woman slowly reminded him, "Eat slowly and use your spoon." Tylok and Buster remained silent. The mother noticed and spoke up, "I am so sorry you have traveled from so far away, but I have not prepared anything proper for you. If my boy had warned me beforehand, things would not be like this." Leon plopped down beside her. The mother continued, "Moreover, reaching a remote place like this must have been a difficult journey. I will discipline my son later, please rest assured. May I ask the purpose of your trip?" Tylok looked at her with a stunned expression. He turned to Buster and remarked about her tone of voice, to which Buster agreed. "That is right, I do not understand it. That way of speaking is only found among royal nobles." The mother paused while cutting the cheese. Tylok frowned in annoyance. "Damn, these despicable villagers." The woman closed her eyes, revealing scars across her cheek. Then, while spreading butter on bread, she replied, "I was suspicious before, but now I can somewhat guess why you are here. I am aware of my and my son's situation. In this place is unusual. Even so, no matter how I explain it, it will be hard to clear your suspicions." She opened her eyes with determination and continued, "I have apologized for my son's abruptness, and I promise it will not happen again. What else can I do to satisfy my guests?" Tylok and Buster were slightly stunned into silence. Then he spoke up with suspicion. "That sounds like a threat," the mother replied. "I heard you were a mercenary, if you see it that way. Perhaps it will be easier for us to talk." After hearing this, he scratched his chin in thought while Tylok frantically interjected, "No. Buster, what is there to talk about? She is a noblewoman. She is evading the question based on the situation. As a king cat, I need to know the details." Buster patted his shoulder and told him to calm down. "Tylok, your son saved our lives. Contrary to what you might think, we are very grateful and will not mention this again." Tylok angrily cut in, shouting, "Buster, that is enough. Just ask her directly why someone like her is in a remote place like this." Leon, who was chewing, turned in astonishment. He continued shouting, And the reason you decided to give birth to that half-breed child, the mother frowned uncomfortably. Your words are impertinent. Tylok slammed the table and yelled back, impertinent, you should worry about yourself first. How pathetic to live so miserably in this remote place. They do not even have the strength to face the troubles outside. Right now on some battlefield, countless of our comrades are falling to the insatiable ambition of nations warring to expand their territories. In the past, a tired Tylok panted heavily looking at the enemy. In front of him was the ogre. The deep red eyes of those monsters. Tylok gritted his teeth and said, I cannot forgive the heinous crimes. For that disgusting half-blood to appear in this place, I would rather face the Hellbrand mixed shield squad. Buster frowned and yelled at Tylok. He stepped forward, waving his hand and continued speak clearly. Why would a remote village like this build fortifications? Furthermore, how much resentment must a woman have to accept carrying a monster's child? She rubbed her forehead and replied softly, please, your concerns are very difficult for me to explain. Leon cried out in panic. Mom. Tylok clenched his fists, his anger flaring as he demanded speak. Without them, how do you explain this? The stunned mother jumped up and shouted, no, Leon. Then a slash tore across Tylok's face, sending him flying. Just then a terrifying explosion erupted from the thatched cottage. After it happened, everything inside collapsed. And collapsed. Inside, Leon had just lost the most important thing to him. He was in agony, watching with regret as it disintegrated and flew out of his house. With no way to save it, Leon screamed in anguish and despair. Outside, someone was beaten until they coughed up blood. Meanwhile, Buster was fighting frantically with all his might. Seeing how difficult the situation was becoming, he gritted his teeth. Helplessly looking back inside, he saw Leon still trapped in despair, his eyes welling with tears, unable to speak. Suddenly, he remembered something and turned to look for it, but at that moment Leon turned back and saw his mother in pain. Unable to get up, the heavily injured mother still tried to calm Leon down. Son, please calm down. Seeing his mother like that, he grew worried and asked Mom. Just then someone approached to check on him. Leon, what happened? Leon looked and saw Buster slowly entering the house. Seeing Buster holding a sword near his mother caused him to misunderstand the situation. His eyes widened as if he understood something. Leon trembled, disbelieving his eyes. No, that is not my mother. Seeing his expression, Buster understood and explained, do not misunderstand this sword. His eyes suddenly turned cold as he declared, it is not aimed at your mother. Buster dashed forward, saying with hatred, but at you, the one who is not human. The mother watched this scene helplessly. She screamed his name, Leon. He ignored her and approached, saying, gently, rest in peace. I will make it as painless as possible. As Buster was about to strike, a mysterious figure suddenly appeared behind him. It was Leon. Unable to stand still, he went berserk as if preparing to attack. Buster saw this but did not fully realize it, thinking, But Buster was careless. When he saw the arm growing larger, he slashed but could not penetrate it. Seeing Leon slowly going berserk, he thought, could it be because of his Aurora blood as he saw the arm charging toward him? He was a little bewildered. One blow would not be enough. Just as he charged forward, Buster realized something was wrong. When he understood, his jaw dropped. It is his mother. Just as he realized it, Leon's arm had already reached him. As he swung his arm past, Buster snapped out of it just in time to dodge aside, but he was still caught by Leon, who grabbed and threw him to the ground from up high. Buster lay still on the ground, not understanding what happened. After that, Leon did not let up and jumped down after him. As he landed, he stomped on the ground, creating a loud thud. Just as he jumped, a terrifying explosion erupted. Back in the same spot, he stood motionless, seemingly lost in thought. Suddenly, he slowly looked up, a terrified look in his eyes. On the other side, Buster had regained his composure, standing up and raising his sword defensively. Seeing him like that, he commented, so quick-witted, even in a panic. You still chose to fight in an open space with that giant body. As the smoke slowly dissipated, Buster saw it and understood. Perhaps the two of them clashed relentlessly, neither giving an inch. Just then, a figure zipped through the smoke. Buster lunged, pointing his sword straight at Leon. The boy was genuinely worried that his choice would endanger his mother. He said nothing, and charged forward with the same unyielding demeanor as they exchanged blows. Neither gave an inch, each just trying to find a weakness. Unexpectedly, Leon played dirty, appearing right behind Buster, startling him. He realized this and thought indignantly, hey, that's my fighting style. He saw the boy's hand reaching for him, still wondering how he could have learned it so quickly. After that, another explosion created a massive shockwave. Far away, Dero heard the loud noise, and it caught his attention. Seeing this, Dero cursed, damn it, Baxter. As he worried, someone approached, startling him. It was Leon's injured mother from before. She could now walk normally. Suddenly, she saw the scene and her expression changed slightly, as if in a daze. Back at the explosion site, the smoke and dust were slowly clearing. The figures of the two emerged from the smoke. After the fight, Leon was looking at his own rough hands. As for Buster, he also turned to look at Leon. After the battle, he turned and said, "I get it now. Just by observing, you grasped my movements and were ready to counter. But something else Buster said caught his attention, even while you were rampaging and out of control." After saying that, he pulled out a rope and said, "If it weren't for this, that last attack would have finished me off." After the battle, Buster was even more surprised by them. It's incredible to be able to control a rampaging orge like this. He also offered to help him. "So your mother can control your body. She's truly admirable." Hearing these words, he was a little moved and looked at Buster, who then shared the truth about himself. "As a member of King Cat, I have no choice but to question a half-blood monster who could potentially become a weapon of war." Above all, he also kindly apologized to him. "And your case is a first, an extremely sensitive one. I sincerely apologize to you." With nothing more to say, Buster finally handed him the rope. "You are just a well-raised child. For your and your mother's sake, we will stop everything here." Just as he was about to take the rope, a clear voice cried out, "Leon!" As soon as he turned, his eyes welled up with tears. On the other side, a hand reached out to him. His mother said softly, "Come here." The mother softened her voice and said, "It's late, let's go to sleep, son." Seeing this scene, Leon felt healed and slowly walked forward, arms outstretched. He hugged his mother tightly and cried his heart out. In his mother's warm embrace, Leon said, "Mom." Meanwhile, far away in a large forest, a strong wind was blowing. Diro lay in the middle of the woods, unable to sit up. He gritted his teeth, enduring the strong, cold wind that seeped through his body. Wincing in pain, he finally screamed in frustration under the full moon. Damn it. After all that, everything was finally resolved, at least for the time being. Compared to such an eventful night, the morning in the forest was full of vibrant life. The light gradually woke mountains and forests from their slumber. Birds began to chirp as always. Leonina's house was also bathed in the light of the new day, while everything was still quiet at dawn. But in the small house's kitchen, one could hear the faint sounds of meat being slowly chopped and a pot of soup simmering, the clinking of bowls and spoons being set out. Soon, the ingredients came together to form a fragrant and delicious-looking bowl of soup. She hadn't said a word, just quietly preparing the meal. A quick glance revealed 2 or 3 dishes already laid out on the table. Indeed, with a slightly wider view, one could see a wide variety of food on the table. Throughout it all, Leonia remained silent. She just gazed silently at the rising sun as if waiting for something, then pulled out this morning's newspaper to read. But strangely, she kept her eyes fixed on the window. The scene shifts to a place in the forest, also just touched by the morning light. Leon, who was recently a bloody mess, now appeared with brighter eyes, as if he sensed something. He turned to look back at something, remaining completely silent. It was Buster and his party, following behind him. On the forest path being cleared by Leon, Byron was panting and sweating profusely as he began to complain. "Good heavens, the way back is even harder." Buster agreed with him. He looked at Leon and spoke up. "Leadin isn't this far. Even if we're avoiding risks, isn't this route too winding?" He didn't say much, simply replying softly, "Yeah, it's a bit of a detour, but it's not just to avoid danger." After speaking, he placed his hand on the forest floor and closed his eyes. After a moment of listening to the surrounding nature, he told everyone, "The forest spoke to me." Suddenly, Leon opened his eyes and fell silent for a moment. Then he looked back at everyone. His words seemed to be supported by the forest as the wind suddenly picked up, rustling through the trees. "Once we leave this forest, the path will be much easier and safer." Everyone looked on in amazement. Witnessing this, no one in the battalion objected. One by one, they all silently followed Leon's guidance. Near the Hellbrain border, on the Perron company's return journey, while everyone was moving, Byron asked in confusion, "Is it really okay to carry someone on such a difficult journey? If I'd known, I wouldn't have tangled with those ogres." Tielok, lying on a stretcher in a cast, was just as surprised to hear someone call him a burden. One of the men carrying the stretcher suddenly retorted to Byron, "But we also sold a lot of goods, so our load is lighter." "That's a good thing." Hearing this, Tielok looked resentful. He shut his eyes tightly and gritted his teeth, thinking to himself, "I'll pay them back in full." After that short conversation, the party continued on their way. They walked for a long time in silence. After a while, Buster suddenly approached Leon and called out, "Leon." The call startled him, and he quickly turned to see what was happening. Holding his axe, he had a look of both surprise and fear on his face as he asked, "Buster?" Knowing what Leon had been through, He could only ask awkwardly at a time like this. Hearing this, Leon suddenly turned and continued on his way. Bester, flustered, replied, "Sorry. The path is difficult, isn't it? Even though this isn't my first time, I'm still not quite used to it. But I can smell the city nearby. We're almost there." Byron, who was already sweating buckets, heard they were close and rushed over, asking, "Really? We're almost there? Thank heavens." Bester then turned to ask Leon, "And you, are you okay? It'll probably take a few days to get the house in order." "It's fine." He thought about Bester's life, and a smile unknowingly appeared on his lips as he replied, "This whole journey, I've been thinking about your adventure stories and the cities I could only imagine through their smells." But Bester, beside him, was surprised by his words. "It's strange that you've never heard these stories, right?" Leon, now more open, started the conversation with him. "They're really interesting, but the villagers usually avoid talking about those things. My mother does too." Byron, who was sitting nearby and had overheard, chimed in. "Perhaps they didn't want an innocent child like you to truly grow up." Leon responded to his kind words. "I like your stories too, Mr. Perron, especially the ones about haggling to sell all your goods." Thinking about living in the city, he asked curiously, "Do you think I could do that? I've heard money is very important to live in the city." Bester didn't forbid it, but helplessly told Leon, "If you keep talking like that, you'll get into trouble," he said, seeing him learn from someone's bad habits. Confused, Perron whispered, "Should I not say anything?" After hearing about Leon's life, a surprised Buster turned and asked him, "According to you, you've never left Perron. Did the village chief forbid you?" His face showed no sign of annoyance. He simply replied, "Not exactly. The outside world is very appealing, but this is my choice." Looking at the towering wooden village wall, he added, "Sometimes I wonder if the village walls are really for my benefit." The people he considered his neighbors and family. "Not only do they take care of me, but the world out there wouldn't welcome me like this place does." But Buster didn't know what to say. He could only look at him pensively for the rest of the journey. But after everything, Leon thought of his humble home and said, "And one more thing. My mother lives alone. She hasn't been able to walk since giving birth to me." As he mentioned his mother, his expression suddenly softened. With a hint of sadness, he recounted, "My mother never said, but I heard from the villagers that she was once a noble. I don't know why she's here." But after his sadness, Leon's thoughts cleared up, and he shared his mind with the group. "Maybe she gave up everything just for me, so how could I dare to leave it all behind for myself?" Byron, standing nearby, couldn't add anything. Seeing the tough situation of the mother and son was hard to take. After seeing everyone in the village respect and welcome him with such open arms, Leon resolved, "I must become truly useful, even if I'm just a child. I want to be able to hunt like those orcs too." For some reason, Byron yelled upon hearing him say that. "Hey, Buster." After a long silence, as if pondering something, he gently asked Leon, "By the way, Leon, about when we first met." As he spoke, his face grew tense and serious, and he asked Leon, "Did someone tell you beforehand to follow Perron?" He considered it an opportunity to gather more information. As for Leon, after hearing Buster's question, he was momentarily flustered and stared at him in silence. It took a moment for Leon to come to his senses and stammer a reply to Buster. "It was just a coincidence, I swear." Byron, who was nearby, stroked his beard and chimed in with Buster, "If you're hiding something, that's a problem worth mentioning." Both of them pressed him simultaneously, causing him to become flustered and waver on whether to tell them or not. Not wanting any more delays, Buster pressed him. "Spit it out, Leon." Leon snapped to his senses and replied, "But it's true. It has nothing to do with the war or anything like that." Having no choice as everyone continued to pressure him, Leon had to talk. He finally began to reveal, "The thing is, near our village, there's a group of orcs in hiding. Orcs, they move in packs, but there aren't many of them. Still, they're a threat to merchants and their escort parties. Being a merchant," he added, "more important than business is the matter of survival. If it gets disrupted, it'll be serious." Hearing this, Buster vaguely offered his own deduction. "So that's why you kept it a secret, and that's why you left your scent around the village." This was indeed part of Leon's plan, so he nodded in response. "That's right." As he said this, Leon's expression suddenly changed. But then one day, that orc pack suddenly vanished. "Even though I know my village inside and out, I still feel that something has changed. I mean, the villagers have guards and patrols, but since you appeared, the entire forest has changed visibly. Above all, I think my own presence in the forest is the main reason." Buster concluded. "So you're protecting us for the sake of the village's reputation?" Although he was partially right, Leon immediately corrected him. No, that's not the only reason. Thinking of those brutes and their strange behavior, he said. Lately, the orcs have been acting very strangely. They're dragging in gnolls and buffaloes. They're even changing the forest's structure. Through the rustling of leaves and grass, Leon let everyone know that. The voice of the forest is in a constant panic. He said this while staring blankly at the forest before them, then quickly returned to the conversation. He tried to reassure everyone. But I'm sure everything will be fine. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. At worst, I'll defeat them with my own hands. Hearing this, both Buster and Perron found Leon's voice suddenly and unexpectedly terrifying. The two of them immediately raised their guard, staring at him intently as they continued to walk and talk. Very quickly, they arrived before the city. As everyone had requested, once Perron's caravan was confirmed to have arrived as planned, Leon finally relaxed, pointing toward the city and saying, "There it is, Lydon. Thank you all for putting up with this rough road." Beside him, Buster suddenly called out, "Leon, thank you for escorting us. This has been a memorable meeting." Perron, also becoming more cheerful, spoke up and told him, "Indeed, a memorable meeting. It's the first time I've been indebted to another species. I truly hope you can fulfill your dream of traveling the world." Like a young man standing at a crossroads in life, Leon felt flustered as he responded to their goodwill. "An opportunity will surely come," and Byron added, "It might be easier than you think. I once saw a nomadic tribe of demi-humans. They're called the Nunez Circus. They travel and trade. What could be better?" Buster, surprised by this, asked, "Nunez? Really? I heard their leader is a talented producer. I'm surprised you know about this, even for a merchant. Who do you take me for?" After much talk, they finished preparing their belongings and went their separate ways. Leon and Perron's group waved farewell to each other with some reluctance. Suddenly, he heard the sound of rustling wind. It blew in the direction Perron's group had just left. And in that instant, Leon seemed to sense something. He absent-mindedly turned back toward the forest. Staring into the pitch-black woods, he couldn't help but worry. The village will be all right, won't it? After seeing off Perron's merchant caravan, Leon stood silently at the edge of the woods, as if waiting for something. The sound of the wind from the forest seemed more dire than ever. Leon heeded the forest's warning. Something terrible was happening. Without a moment's hesitation, he braced himself and dashed forward. In the blink of an eye, Leon vanished from sight. 8 years ago, when this place was still wild and vast, cattle roamed freely around the village. At this time, Leon was just a small boy. The small human was staring blankly when a familiar voice suddenly called his name, Leon. His stepfather beside him suddenly asked, even though Leon didn't understand what was going on, "Son, how old are you this year?" Young Leon stared blankly for a moment, then held up 5 fingers, seemingly indicating he was 5 years old. The man exclaimed in surprise, "My goodness, you're already 5? You've grown so big." As he spoke, he placed a hand on Leon's head, adding, "5 years old isn't so little. You know, I thought you were already 10. Maybe you should eat a little less." Suddenly, he thought of Leonia, at home, swinging a knife in the butcher shop. He unconsciously muttered to himself, "Leonia's starting to care about her looks." As he spoke, he continuously ruffled Leon's hair. It seemed there was a special connection between the two. The stepfather gazed into the distance and said, "Looking at you reminds me of my own childhood." His childhood had not been a happy one, recalling the time he was struggling to survive in that dark forest. "I lost my family, my home, everything, because of some noble and his knight. I had to flee deep into the forest. While I was fast asleep, the wind suddenly picked up as if to wake me. After wandering in the forest for many days, that alone was enough to jolt me awake. Following the sound of the wind, I stumbled upon a village enclosed by 4 walls, made of towering wooden logs. My hair was a mess, my eyes were glazed over, and my clothes were in tatters. I was a small boy," he recounted, "only 10 years old at the time." As if sympathizing with his stepfather, Leon, with his kind heart, immediately embraced him. The man's face revealed a bitter pain as he told Leon, "I was just like you. The only place that would shelter my mother and me was this village, a peaceful village. Everyone lived a self-sufficient life together. The days passed by peacefully, unnoticed by the outside world." As he said this, his voice suddenly choked with emotion. Maybe it's because everyone here has shared the same pain. Returning to the present, Leon was part of the way home. He sensed something was terribly wrong. The sky had taken on a savage red glow, and the white clouds were now replaced by columns of pitch-black smoke. Leon stood there bewildered, asking himself, "What is this? This is seriously worrying." That plume of smoke was coming from the direction of his village. He was confused, wondering what had happened. However, Looking around, he couldn't find anything unusual. He thought, I don't see any traces of monsters. Suddenly, he remembered Leonia. He panicked, thinking, wait, oh no. He then used his ability, focusing with all his might. He used his sense of smell to perceive the village. After seeing that Leonia was still safe, Leon finally relaxed. The breath that was crushing his chest. He collapsed to his knees, thanking the heavens it hadn't spread yet. But his first priority was to return to the village. After feeling somewhat reassured, Leon stood up and began his journey back to the village. After walking for a while, Leon was forced to stop, stunned to realize that before him was an entire forest burning fiercely. But this, after looking around, he helplessly realized this wasn't the smell of a normal fire. Did someone set this fire on purpose? The scent leading to the village has been masked. Standing in the middle of a raging sea of fire, Leon asked himself what he should do now. Who is behind this? And why? I have to get back quickly. While he was lost in thought, from somewhere, a weak voice suddenly rang out by Leon's ear, catching his attention. Leon. Leon recognized that tone of voice. He quickly turned around to confirm. Unbeknownst to him, a battlefield had formed behind him. It was already engulfed in a sea of flames. The person struggling for life within that inferno was unfortunately his stepfather. The man used his last breath to call his name Leon, but then turned to curse himself. Damn it. Looking at this scene, it seemed he had been through a battle, an extremely fierce one. He could only struggle to say a few words to Leon. Ignoring the heat of the flames, he ran for his life towards his stepfather, his face showing extreme worry. Leon was helpless, able to do nothing but try to reassure him. He panicked, his breathing becoming ragged, unable to form a complete sentence. We have to get back to the village for treatment, quickly, I'll. The stepfather, seeing Leon was still unharmed, let out a sigh of relief and replied, Thank heavens I wasn't too late. Leon, when you return to the village, you must remember. He used his last ounce of strength to warn Leon, to prepare him for the road ahead. No matter what you witness, you must stay strong. Having fulfilled his duty, he could now rest in peace. His whole body gradually lost strength and collapsed. Standing before the cold corpse of his stepfather, all sound seemed to disappear, leaving only the crackling of the flames that enveloped everything around him. Leon didn't get to say a single word to him. He silently stood up, then looked at his surroundings. Everything seemed to become meaningless before his eyes. Now, he could only blink and look up at the sky. In a moment of recollection, he remembered the warmth of that time, when the two of them peacefully herded livestock by the village. Leon's tears began to flow uncontrollably. Back at Leon's village, the villagers were gathering on the walls, one by one. Each of them was armed, seemingly preparing to fight against something. After everyone was in position, they raised their bows, aiming at something outside the village. Looking at the bigger picture, it turned out the village was single-handedly fighting against a massive army of orcs. Large orcs began to use their strength to raise a ladder against the village wall. Ken, now in a command position, saw squads of orcs climbing the ladders and shouted an order. They're climbing the walls, ready your bows. Every single one of them was filled with fighting spirit, wanting to protect their home with all their might. Aim for the orcs carrying the ladders first. After holding them off for a while, Ken finally found a rare moment to assess the battlefield situation. Just one glance made him curse out loud in anger. Damn it! How is a horde of orcs this well equipped? Someone must have interfered. At the same time, a man was observing with a spyglass. He shouted a warning to Ken. Behind them. Looking just a bit closer, past the dense horde of orcs. Suddenly, he noticed an individual who was very different from the others. It seemed one could see that it played an extremely important role in the army. Even the demonic beast it rode looked just as ferocious. Ken was bewildered, only managing to utter, that ferocious large orc didn't say a word. He just slowly lowered his head. A second later, he revealed eyes filled with immense killing intent. His murderous aura directly enveloped the entire orc army behind him. The whole village was now in danger of being wiped out by this terrifying orc. The scout was confused, only able to numbly ask himself, is something this size an orc? I've never seen an orc tame a warg before. Ken, in contrast, although he seemed horrified, managed to remain calm, exclaiming in surprise, I can't believe it. An uruk from the wastelands. That thing should only appear on the juvenile battlefield. Why is it here? After saying that, he turned back and told the villagers in a helpless tone, Everyone, this is no ordinary attack. Before he could finish his sentence, the young man next to him was immediately struck by a spear from that ferocious orc. Pain mixed with terror caused the young man to fall and scream in despair. Ken looked at the head on the spear, stunned, and wondered, what is that? The voices of the surrounding soldiers began to ring in his ears. Hurry. Stop the bleeding. Orc weapons are poisoned. But what he was concerned about right now was the other orc's actions. Even with a man wounded, he didn't take his eyes off it. After throwing the spear, it pulled tightly on the reins of the beast beneath it. At the same time, it ordered its entire army to charge at once. Its eyes radiated a dense, murderous intent. Aimed at the village, having already known its target, the orc gritted its teeth and roared. That terrifying ogre. At this point, the horde of orcs decided to attack by bringing ladders to climb. The people saw this and shouted loudly. Stop the ones with the ladders first. Don't let them climb up. Ken ordered his comrades to defend. Then, he instructed the archers to take aim. Waiting only for the signal to fire. A volley of hundreds of arrows rained down, killing dozens of orcs below. The old mage saw this and clicked his tongue in annoyance. After observing them for so long, I didn't expect them to be such good shots. At the same time, Ken was also aiming his bow directly at the old mage, catching him off guard. He died on the spot. Seeing an important figure on the Uruk's side fall, he finally lowered his bow. This made the Uruk hate humans even more. It turned sharply to its subordinates, signaling with a flick of its hand, then threw a piece of paper towards the group of people. Then, a confused archer picked it up. What's this? A letter? Why isn't it written in the orc language? Just then, the orcs dragged out a chain. Following it were several of Ken's people. Seeing this, he froze, muttering without realizing it. Guards, on my command, be ready to fire, until an observer shouted, Wait, look, those are the children from the patrol. Darien is among them. This forced him to stop his comrades. Stop, don't shoot. Those bastards are using hostages as shields. He looked fearfully towards the leader. He saw them bring out 3 people and tie them up tightly, making Ken tremble in fear. My son. Just then, the black-haired man shouted in panic, Ken, they're attacking the main gate. You have to make a decision before it's too late. This made Ken's eyes widen. What? At the same time, from below, there were sounds of many panicked footsteps. The panicked humans were grabbing any weapon they could find and rushing to the wall. We have to hold the gate, even if we die. If they break through, the whole village will be annihilated. At that moment, a man, timid as a mouse, was hiding behind a pile of sacks. The commander saw this, bent down, and shouted in his face. Who's this coward? There's no time. Go block the gate. The man hugged his head in fear, his voice trembling. This is crazy. Can't you feel it? Why is no one? Then he shouted in frustration. We've faced countless monsters. Has anything like this ever happened? It's useless. They're definitely after something. Meanwhile, outside the walls, the monsters were using a large log to ram the gate, causing the humans inside to struggle relentlessly. Just as one person shut his eyes, ready to give up, I can't hold on any longer. On the Uruk's side, he was still standing calmly, waiting for the other side to act. At this moment, an orc approached with interest. Impressive. At this rate, the gate will be broken. As expected of one born for battle, you truly are a special species. As promised, we will help you hunt your prey. And so, after some time, there was still no movement from Ken's side. Seeing this, the people urged him, Ken, give the order. But he was still agonizing over the problem of his son. The boy, held captive below, looked up sadly at his father as the black-haired man came to advise Ken. We've decided. I understand why you're hesitant, but is there any other way to save them? It's a tragedy, but we have no other choice. Making him hesitate for a moment before shouting, Fire, but I can't give the order. Hearing this, the black-haired man bowed his head and apologized. He then stepped up as commander ready to aim at the leader Uruk. Realizing they were only now showing signs, leaping high into the air in front of him, then landing with great force, making Uruk laugh loudly and look up. You've finally shown up, and in an instant, he wiped out all the orcs near him, leaving the people above completely stunned. As the dust settled, Ken finally recognized Leon. Meanwhile, the orcs stood still, waiting for a command from their leader. Just then, his trusted subordinate spoke up. Just as predicted, the prey has fallen into the trap. What will you do now? Hearing this, Ken's son turned his head to look, and was immediately slashed in the neck. Blood splattered everywhere. The boy cried out Leon's name, and Leon snapped his head around to see Uruk giving him a sinister smile. The spreading pool of foul blood sent Leon into a rage. He gasped for air as he stared at the gruesome corpses on the ground. Enraged, Leon instantly flashed behind Uruk, forcing him to whip around. He ducked just in time to dodge a fatal blow from Leon. However, Uruk's warhorse was killed by the attack. This made Uruk laugh in amusement. The skills of a veteran cavalryman. You do have some fighting technique, don't you? As he finished speaking, he slashed Leon across the stomach, making Leon cry out in pain and cough up blood. Uruk then took the chance to kick him away, but Leon quickly regained his footing, using his hand to stop himself. As he got up, he remained wary of the leader before him despite the sharp pain in his stomach. But Leon's wound instantly began to heal itself, making Uruk look a little disappointed. Still not enough, that was my strongest attack, it should have cut you in half. Hearing this, Leon glared angrily at him, which only made Uruk more excited as he pointed his blade at Leon. How does it feel? The first time you've ever felt pain, does it hurt? You're surprised by your own incredible regeneration, aren't you? Tell me, what kind of monster are you? However, Leon remained silent. He wasted no words and charged forward, fighting Uruk until both were exhausted. After clashing for a while, the leader's sword shattered. Seeing this, Leon seized the opportunity. He used his strength to back up his words and punched Uruk, sending him to the ground. Even though he was bruised and beaten, Uruk was still a loudmouth. Indeed, looking at Leon's powerful physique, he continued, "Compared to me, your physical strength, speed and natural talent, I am completely outmatched." And so while Leon was distracted, Uruk's comrades who had snuck up on him swung a crude chain and tightly bound Leon's arm. Catching him off guard, the group threw more chains from all directions, aiming for their prey. They then bound Leon tightly from his neck to his feet, making it impossible for him to escape. Only then did Uruk approach. "How does it feel?" "This is an orc trap. It's strong enough to restrain even a wild bull. Although I don't think this will hold you for long." After a while of being bound by the barbed chains, Leon began to lose his strength. The more he struggled, the more he bled, making Uruk even more delighted. "It hurts, doesn't it? There's more to come, little monster." He then gestured to his comrades. They brought up another human. The bruised and pale black-haired young man looked at him and called out Leon's name in confusion. He then turned to see several other comrades also tied up. Suddenly, Uruk gripped the chain around the black-haired boy's neck. "Unlike ordinary monsters," he said, making the boy cry out in fear. "Help me." He tightened his grip for a prisoner who's no better than an animal. Then he used a long spear to force the boy down and stabbed him directly in the stomach, ignoring his cries for help. This caused Leon even greater anguish, but he was powerless to do anything. The young man groaned, reaching out his hand for help. But Leon could only watch as Uruk taunted him. "Watch your man writhe in agony and die a miserable death. It must be agonizing. Even though they look like wild beasts, they are something you can never escape. Your weak instincts, right?" After saying that, he stabbed the young man again, this time in the shoulder. This made the other captive scream in fear. "No, please don't," which only excited Uruk more as he turned his cold gaze on Leon. Leon couldn't take it anymore and charged. The ones holding Leon's chains struggled to hold him back because his physical strength was overwhelming. This made Uruk even more excited. "I will expose your true instincts, leaving you with nothing but a shell of pure rage." However, no matter how much Uruk rambled on, Leon took the opportunity to pretend to relax his hand and then struck out swiftly. Seizing the chance, Leon snatched the spear from Uruk's hand. To everyone's astonishment, the barbed chains they had used to restrain Leon were now useless, as they had all been snapped in two. He suddenly recalled his adoptive father's words, "Be careful, no matter what you see there, if I lose my mind," back in the present. Uruk emerged from the pool of blood. How surprising the instincts of a monster even after losing an arm. But Uruk was still full of vigor. The stronger the smell of human blood, the more ferocious they become. As Uruk spoke, Leon grew confused. Who are you?" "Why?" Uruk just chuckled. "You can probably feel it too, can't you? The fear that makes my own legs tremble, the scent of monster and human blood." Leon stared wide-eyed at his opponent. "That's right, I'm just like you, a half-blood." Outside the village fence, hordes of orcs stood still. The archers on the watchtower were stunned by the sight before them. Uruk noted with satisfaction. Not on a battlefield, but in this remote place. Just think about it, a half-orc, the most powerful monster of all. Leon panted exhaustedly as Uruk stood grimly amidst the battlefield. He growled fiercely. "Have you ever wondered why no one has dared to hunt it until now? From the desolate lands of Uruk home to many orcs to the battlegrounds of the species in the arid lands of Juvena. There they were, mercenaries, and war was their honor. Being of mixed human and orc blood. They inherit the strength of both species, proficient in weapons command and the art of war, but they can only be created through a mystical method that has long been lost. Thus, their numbers dwindled, and when the wars ended, they were abandoned. They survived by taking on dangerous hunts. A group of goblins armed with various weapons formed a line as their leader signaled to them to charge forward. Suddenly, debris appeared all around, and a piece of it flew into his eye, causing it to bleed. A giant orc appeared beside him, and that orc became his protector, protecting The little goblins fought for survival. A bleak moon rose from behind the mountain, but sadly only one was left standing in the end. Uruk, the name that once represented a species, now belongs to a single individual. Warm sunbeams peeked through the dense forest. A tamed, ferocious beast appeared with Uruk riding it, accompanied by his subordinates. In the years that followed, that survivor quietly observed the distant forests of the Arena Kingdom, He looked toward the enemies of his kind, waiting for a chance for revenge while seeking the descendants of his foe. The orcs surrounded and attacked Leon. One of them shouted, "Don't let him escape, surround him." Leon swung the spear in his hand, sending the surrounding orcs flying. A loud voice commanded. At the same time, form the bull containment formation and surround Leon. Now enraged, he roared angrily at the monsters before him. Uruk stood silently on the sidelines observing the fight. His subordinate behind him spoke with concern. "Damn it, what's going on? How is one orc pushing all of them back? If this keeps up, we're just sending them to their deaths." Up on the village watchtower, everyone stood watching the battle below. Ken looked on hesitantly. "My God, this is..." Someone ran up to report Ken. "The orcs are attacking again. They're targeting Leon. Will he be all right? Leon is all by himself." Ken watched Leon struggle against the orcs and quietly called his name Leon. An iron-barbed chain from the orcs shot out like a snake. It shot out and wrapped tightly around Leon's leg. The iron chain was yanked back, forcing him to his knees. Leon looked up with surprise in his eyes. Uruk lunges from above at Leon, his knife grazing Leon's cheek and drawing blood. The two charge at each other again to continue their fight. Uruk laughs as Leon cuts off his limbs one by one. His body is finally thrown to the ground. Leon growls in frustration as Uruk laughs gleefully and mutters about sacrificing all his limbs. "It was worth it. Now the one you've been suppressing for so long will finally awaken." Though, as soon as he finished speaking, Leon let out a scream and passed out. Back when Leon had just defeated Uruk, he let out a loud roar. Ken and a few other soldiers turned back. A powerful aura emanates from Leon. An orc looks at him and shouts, "Run fast, that Uruk guy lost. We can't win." The orcs surrounding Leon quickly scatter in panic. The village is now filled with plumes of smoke. On the devastated, Ken and another person run over to Leon. The other person exclaims, "Oh my God!" A few people gather to check on Leon's condition. As he lies unconscious and battered, Ken hesitantly asks about his condition. "How is he? I know he's still alive, but he looks completely unharmed." A man looks up to report to Ken. "You saw it too, didn't you?" He took countless hits from the orcs with his own body. He touches Leon and continues, "In the short time it took us to get here, he has already recovered this much." "I really don't know if Hez actually an ogre." Ken frowns silently. The other man doesn't notice and continues to wonder aloud. "But will he be able to get up? The neurotoxin on the orc's weapons is potent. There are so many things we need to ask him right now." Uruk, lying on the side, finds this ridiculous and interrupts. "Why bother waking that monster up? You could just ask the wretch lying right here," a man exclaims in surprise. "What the hell, he's still alive. That's why I said we should have finished him off to be sure." Uruk laughs helplessly and reassures them, "Don't worry. I have lost too much blood. Death will come for me soon. Nothing is easier than interrogating someone who no longer clings to life." The other man ignores Uruk and advises Ken, "Just ignore him. Hess the one who led the bandits." Ken calmly interrupts the man and questions Uruk. "The letter you sent, since it wasn't written in the orc language, you must not have wanted others to read it right, so it must have been for Leon. But he has never left this forest his entire life, so how could he have gone to the wastelands you frequent and made an enemy of you?" He looks towards Leon and continues, "What is your connection to him? Why did Leon become your target?" Uruk laughs and answers, "Ken, I can already imagine how you will all treat that ogre from now on. It seems my revenge has come early, so I will answer you with no regrets. First of all, you thinking that you succeeded in hiding and protecting that half-ogre was a grave misunderstanding." Hearing this confuses Ken. Uruk recalls and narrates that giant wall while you were all hiding behind it, covering your eyes and ears. The Butcher of the Six Central Lands had started to rampage again, and a clue was revealed, revealing that a blue dragon was behind it all. Someone interrupts, "Oh my God, a blue dragon, why are we only hearing this now?" Uruk ignores him and continues, "I'm sure you all know the nature of ogres. Normally an adult ogre will resist to the very end, even if it means death." He recalls Leon's parents and remarks, "And yet a monster of a completely different class chose to surrender." Uruk says casually, "My obsession, no, everything started from there. All of this started because of a human wench." Hearing this, Ken realized it must be Leon's mother and was shocked. "Why you?" Uruk laughs as fragmented images flash in his mind. "I could smell it, the scent of the butcher's blood. That scent was etched into my mind. In the end, besides me, no one is allowed to even look at that half-breed. So I gathered the orcs and tormented the forest, even creating a perfect maze, so no outsider would dare set foot here. The wall you believed was protecting you would be useless if this wasn't my forest to begin with." Ken is stunned by Uruk's story. Uruk laughs loudly, mocking them. "How ridiculous. In the end, you discovered nothing. You were just hiding that half-breed until he grew into that monster. Perhaps revenge for my kin was never what was important to me." He lies on the ground mocking himself. "So why then? Perhaps I just wanted to make him a loner like me." An eye slowly opens. An urgent voice rings out. "Village chief, you saw it with your own eyes. Didn't you?" Leon jolts awake, looking doubtfully toward the voice. It was Ken trying to persuade the village chief. Of course, Leonia must have raised him well, but even so, his true nature is something he can't control. Leon can communicate and seems gentle now, but if he becomes more like an ogre, will we be able to control him? Leon looks at the leather ropes binding him, he panics and looks back at the crowd as another person speaks up. Even Uruk from the wastelands and his orc army couldn't do anything to Leon. Of course, we can't deny that we survived this disaster thanks to Leon, but what if something happens and he attacks the village? The village chief seems to notice Leon watching and glances his way. The chief's gaze startles Leon. Ken chimes in to support the other man. It's very likely that in the name of protecting one child, the entire village will be put in danger. Before he can finish the village, Chief cuts him off. That's enough. He turns towards Leon, say no more Ken, but Ken wouldn't give up on getting rid of Leon. After failing to protect Darren, I cannot fail to protect the village. I understand, so please stop. The village chief interrupts Ken again, but the stubborn man continues to persuade him. Village chief, if you can't handle him, then you must have another solution. If what that Uruk fellow said is true, then countless others will soon come to the village looking for him. The annoyed village chief interrupts Ken once more. I'm not saying you are wrong. What happened to Darren was truly regrettable, but that child is only 13 years old. And this is not something he chose for himself. Besides, as a village elder, surely you know what our priority should be, right? As soon as he finishes, Ken loses his cool and yells, but chief, I mean, we have to act before it's too late. The chief loses his patience and shuts him down. That's enough. The boy will hear you. Leon overhears the elders' conversation. He is shocked and starts to doubt himself. Is it all because of me? The elders are arguing because I went on a rampage. Leon comes to his senses and asks himself a question he cannot answer. Why did I do that? Is this the true nature I inherited from my father? I am disgusted by it. I can't believe this is who I really am. The village chief senses movement and hurries over to Leon asking if he is okay. The bright moon illuminates the scene. Leon leaves the house and reassures the village chief. Don't worry, I will be fine. I'm almost okay now. The chief is still worried and says nervously, but we were a bit late in notifying Leonia due to the circumstances. We couldn't do anything else, Leon says confidently. I'm sure she will understand. The chief, still feeling guilty, hesitates. Leon, no matter what anyone says, the fact is, you saved the whole village. I am very grateful and proud of you. Leon calmly replies, yes. As he is about to leave the village, Chief adds, when you get home, remember to brew the antidote I gave you. Drink it once with every meal. Thank you, I will tell my mother too, Leon replies calmly. He finally turns and says softly, I must be going now. My mother is waiting for me. I hope everyone inside is okay. The village chief doesn't keep him any longer. All right, Leon, you should go. Under everyone's watchful eyes and the light of the moon, Leon leaps high into the air, leaving an empty space behind him. The full moon shines brightly in the dark forest. A black crow lands on a branch. A strong wind blows against Leon's mother. But she stands firm, her body turned towards the forest, silently waiting for something. A large hand touches a nearby tree. Leon looks sadly at his mother, who is standing near the fence right in his sight. Mother worried for her, he panics and rushes towards her yelling, Mom, the area near the fence is dangerous. Especially at night like this. Leon's mother calmly tells her charging son, stop right there. Calm down. Hearing this, Leon freezes in place. She slowly reassures him. I'm fine. There's nothing to worry about here, but that's not the problem right now. Leon hesitantly called out to his mother, who gently spoke to him. I heard you went into the chaotic rift in the village on your own, even though I told you not to. Leon froze at her words. Leonia asked with a hint of sadness. They say Nelson died out there. Is that what's troubling you? Memories of Nelson flooded Leon's mind. Nelson gently patting his head saying, if I had a son, I'd want him to be like you, Leon, all under his mother's gaze. Feeling guilty, Leon spoke with a trembling voice. I'm sorry for making you worry, especially after witnessing his death. I couldn't bear it. Leonia patiently listened to her son speak. You know Mom, Uncle Nelson? In my eyes, he looked in agony at his cruel hands back then. Even in that situation, he still told me not to lose my cool. Was he afraid of what I would face there? The truths I might discover? Pained by her son's story, Leonia turned away, recalling the sorrowful gaze of her beloved before returning to the present. Leon desperately asked his mother, Mom, please answer me. Does this ferocity come from my father? Leonia's body trembled. Stop, I'm sorry, Leon, she repeated in agony. I'm sorry, I just can't. A terrified Leon ran to his staggering mother, shouting Mom. The two embraced in sorrow. Leonia said heartbrokenly once more, I'm truly sorry. Scene changed to the Sorin kingdom, the domain of Baron Velis. Inside the castle, a wall was decorated with a collection of severed heads. The Baron sat at the dining table speaking casually. The dragon hunt failed. How absurd. Wasn't that a waste of effort? Or did they forget why it was sealed in the first place? All that talk about tradition and generational desire, he sat there muttering. I've told them countless times, but they still don't get it. Besides, no matter how hard they try, can they really overcome Hellbrain's power? What a bunch of useless fools. He held up the bone he was gnawing on and said sarcastically, that's why I just can't understand it. The reality of finding a blue dragon. But anyway, I can't ignore the sacred general mobilization order. If it weren't for you, I'd be in big trouble, my knight Herman. As he spoke, the blonde knight named Herman appeared. He reported, don't worry. I have completed the mission within the assigned scope, so the homeland has no reason to complain. If they demand more dedication, we'll just buy some more time. He recalled someone's silhouette and continued speaking. Furthermore, just as you predicted, this dragon hunt has too many suspicious points. I must admire your sharp eye. The investigation revealed the appearance of a half-human, half-orc. Baron Velis excitedly asked Herman, as expected now that's more realistic. You won't disappoint me with this harvest, will you? Herman stood by the dining table. Herman confidently replied, of course, then just wait a little longer the day its head joins. My collection isn't far off. Herman left. He went to the foot of a bridge where he had arranged to meet someone, seeing the person waiting for him. Herman spoke up asking, you said you're Tylok from Ryden, right? The wary Tylok told him to hold on and stay right there. He growled irritably, do you noble knights think mercenaries like us are easy to push around, such a bunch of hypocrites? Herman listened thoughtfully as Tylok said, you have 3 people tailing you. Are they here to track you or to escort you? Isn't that different from what you promised? You said this job had to be done discreetly. And as quickly as possible, Herman listened to him analyze his plan. He wasn't angry, but thought for a moment before speaking. Your insolence has crossed the line. Even if you're from Ryden, you should know your place, if you don't want to die before the job even starts. Tylok ignored his threats and joked casually, since you're here, if something bad were to happen, could you handle it with your men? Because it's an orc, I doubt you can easily deal with it in the forest. There was a moment of silence between them, then Herman quickly replied to Tylok, be realistic. Scene change. Sunlight illuminates a corner of the forest. Leon leaned against a tree looking toward the Siren Kingdom as the wind blew leaves past him. He stared blankly at the scene before him, finally snapping out of it and turning away. Leon thought to himself, this is no time to be idle. I need to hunt for some food before dark. His eyes darted in one direction as if sensing something. Leon confirmed to himself, because I probably can't go back to the village for a while. The dense, pristine forest stretched on endlessly. A terrified wild boar was running for its life. Leaves rustled with stealthy movements. It continued to flee for its life. Leon easily caught up to the boar in the blink of an eye. It was utterly terrified. The wild boar accelerated, bolting forward and rushing towards a barren hill. Mom must have tried her best to prevent that, to raise me as a proper human. Leon locked onto his target, closing the distance. He was right on top of the wild boar. That was completely understandable because of its extreme panic. It lost its footing. The wild boar tumbled pathetically on the ground, skidding to a stop in a corner. The wild boar looked up at Leon. Seeing him slowly approach, it could only shed helpless tears. Leon advanced like an imposing god. Perhaps it's because my father's blood flows in me that I can move so nimbly and understand the instincts of wild animals, setting traps, luring prey, and striking weak points. I must have inherited all this from my father. The forest became peaceful again, as if the hunt never happened. He lightly touched his prize. Leon's eyes filled with fear. Could it be that Mom was afraid my father's shadow would manifest in me? Deep in the forest, Tylok was grumbling. No matter how many times I think about it, it's just ridiculous. The two of them were navigating through the Perron forest. The man in front cleared away the tangled branches. Back then it felt like being in a dungeon. Armored buffaloes would just swarm out in herds. And they weren't even ordinary wild buffaloes, Herman asked in surprise. Not wild. You mean they were properly trained? Tylok gave a sarcastic sneer. That's right. Would you believe there was a war between races in this remote place? He raised a doubtful eyebrow. The man corrected himself a bit. Well, I exaggerated a little, but it was close to that. Even in a remote land like this, there are villages connected to the Merchant Guild. But recently, the local orcs suddenly started a huge riot. The one behind it was Uraka of Juvenia. Herman was completely taken aback. Uraka, you've been a wandering mercenary for a long time. Right, but weren't you in a command position during the War of the Races? I never expected you to come all the way here. Tylok laughed smugly, his eyes filled with interest and cruelty. What do you think? This isn't just a simple monster hunt, is it? His face darkened as he continued to stay silent. The man firmly assured him, there's a lot more that will surprise you. We're almost there, let's speed up. Herman said nothing more, just followed Tylok closely. Time passed until dusk. The predator was furiously slaughtering orcs. They fell one after another. The leader was grabbed by the neck and questioned. It answered in agony, I've already told you everything I know. Ever since that bastard died. The man's hand holding the knife paused mid-air, then swiftly finished off the orc in one move. The predators confirmed Sir Herman's judgment was indeed correct. We thought this was just a normal farming village. Sir Herman is going to another location with the Kincaid mercenary. It seems to be a place closely related to our prey. They discussed what's going on. Didn't we agree to meet at the village gate after the hunt? Who knows? Tilok and Herman approached a small house. His eyes were locked onto it. He must have discovered something more interesting. The predators also kept moving. Anyway, let's just follow orders. Night fell. The surroundings grew quiet. The mother sat alone at the dining table, her eyes fixed on the door as she waited. The night was deep and endless. Suddenly something unusual seemed to stir within it. Leon's words echoed in his mother's ears. Now about your father. She kept thinking about that moment. The mother's eyes shut tightly, a trace of sorrow in them. Suddenly, a loud and rapid knock came from the door. She raised her eyebrows in surprise. The mother knew it wasn't who she was waiting for, and cautiously reached for a wooden club nearby. At that moment, Tilok decisively broke down the door and burst in. There's no one here. The large wooden door crashed down with a deafening noise. Seeing the mother sitting inside, he froze. A calculating smirk immediately formed on his lips. I've made a big mistake. I didn't know you were here, oh, incomparably noble lady. She showed her displeasure. You've come again. I don't know the purpose of this visit, but I haven't contacted the village in a long time, and my son has been living peacefully. I'm sorry, but there's nothing left for you to take from here. Tilok suddenly interrupted her. What a shame. It's clearly a happy reunion, yet you prefer the body of a giant ogre over your noble status. How are you worse than the whores in the village? These crude insults forced the mother to pay attention to him. Tilok seized the moment she looked up. He gestured towards his companion, a warrior from the kingdom of Ridon. It is an honor to meet the princess of the Arcadian Empire. The mother's face immediately paled. The familiar figure behind him made her shudder. Their eyes met. A reunion the mother had never expected had occurred. Herman spoke first. In a lowly place like this? I never expected to meet you here. To bury your life here is truly too noble, Knight of Sharon. Herman, please return to our homeland with me. The mother was stunned, her eyes wide as she looked at the two men. A moment later she spoke softly. Why have you come all this way to this remote place? But so much time has passed. Besides, if it were the Penslot royal family, I once knew they would have found me long ago. Seeing how they've ignored me until now, it must be. But before she could finish, he cut her off. Of course, they publicly declared she had passed away, but the Penslot royal family never gave up on the princess who could return at any time. Or, do you think your current situation is unacceptable? That remark immediately caught the mother's attention. The white because I myself will wipe away that filth for you. Outside the small wooden house glowed in the quiet forest. A predator was watching silently from a distance. Not just one person, but a whole group was there. The full moon silently cast its gentle light over the forest. The predator in the back spoke softly. The target appears here often. They call him a half-blood right, but in the end, his actions are no different from a common ogre. The hunter sitting below replied, Is that the instinct of a beast? I heard he can even talk, but in the end an ogre is just an ogre. As soon as he finished, both of them stood up and left. He continued to chat. About 13 years old in human terms, right? From the beginning we had no other choice. The target will definitely return here. Another hunter suddenly spoke up. Prepare for the ogre hunt. We need results before we meet Lord Herman. Meanwhile, Leon thought to himself, it's getting late. This smell is really strong. It's fine for me, but Mom hates this smell. She doesn't say it directly to my face. But he remembered his conversation with Aunt Pin. Are you really going to eat something this savory, kids, these days? Leon thought quietly, maybe I should ask Aunt Pin to add more spices to cover this smell. Then he continued walking in silence. Leon suddenly remembered his mother's worried face. Mom has been looking so sad lately. She doesn't answer no matter what I ask. What happened before must be my fault. The full moon shone down on him silently. He looked up at the moonlight, hoping his mom would be happy again soon. A strange feeling suddenly crept into Leon's mind. Immediately after a volley of arrows flew towards him, he quickly used the beast he had just hunted as a shield. Leon angrily gritted his teeth, speechless. Then he tightened his grip on the beast in his hands. Without hesitation, Leon powerfully threw it into the air. The beast immediately flew high into the air. At this moment, he couldn't hide his surprise. What is going on? Where did these guys come from? More importantly, just a minute ago, there was no smell or any sign of them. If so, this is definitely a hunt. Where are they? Leon, full of anger, scanned his surroundings. Who is behind this? Suddenly he realized a hunter had unexpectedly appeared from behind, pointing a sword straight at Leon's neck. As Leon glanced back, the hunter lunged forward, stabbing a knife straight into his back. His whole body swayed, unable to stand firm. Then Leon knelt down as a stream of red flowed around him. He thought to himself, why? Why is this happening? I've been living in hiding all this time. Leon kept lamenting. Why are they hunting me again? The hunter watched intently. However, he still couldn't believe it. It's so unfair. Then he prepared for the finishing blow. Leon's eyes were fixed on the approaching blade, but not for long. Meanwhile, the mother was constantly breaking out in a cold sweat. All three of them were silent. No one dared to speak. Then she slowly opened her eyes. Tylok, standing beside her, suddenly thought, good grief, these highly educated guys are so predictable. Well, maybe he's tired of being a lackey for the officials. Corrupt officials. But look at him. His eyes are calm, but his actions are so hasty. At this moment, Herman maintained a cold expression. he secretly guessed. And that woman acting all noble too. Was she swayed by those words? Are all nobles like this? How despicable. Suddenly Tylok remembered that old arrogant look. In the end it was all just an act. Returning to the present, he gave a faint, meaningful smile. Well, go on and struggle. In this miserable state you won't achieve anything. Suddenly the mother spoke up instead. Don't you think? That sentence immediately caught the attention of Tylok and Herman. She frowned slightly. That the ones who will pay with their blood are those who came to hunt me like you. Hearing this, Herman's face remained calm and expressionless. Then he calmly turned his head, his gaze fixed on the forest. At that exact moment, Leon suddenly charged in. Seeing that, he got into an attack stance. Seeing this, Leon showed fear. Herman swung his sword straight at his neck. But thanks to his quick reflexes, Leon dodged the attack. He gave a triumphant smile. Herman praised him. Interesting move. Where did you learn to move like that? A terrifying explosion shattered the quiet night. An immense power shattered the wooden house. Tylok, he's so shameless, that night Tylok thought to himself. Was he hiding his skills? I never expected to see a swordmaster in a place like this with my own eyes. Leon moved towards his mother, silently observing the situation. A glint appeared in Leon's eyes as he growled. Leon, she said softly, calm down, they won't harm me. You need to leave this place now. Herman launched another slash straight at Leon. The blow landed, sending blood flying. Leon collapsed at his words. All right, how was that? Next time I won't be so lenient. Before that, let me hear the final excuse from that pathetic mouth of yours. How could a mere beast like you escape my student? How did you get past the apprentice knights? His body lit up from Herman's technique. He snapped. Tell me what happened in the Perron forest just now. Leon was gasping for breath under the trees. The hunter in front of him spoke. Even if you are the child of a beast, you're only a little smaller than a real ogre. It's useless to struggle. You can't change who you are. He raised his sword. The only reason for a prey's existence, he glanced at the sword about to end his life. The hunter roared, is to be hunted. The man's sword swung down, but he had vanished. The hunter couldn't believe his eyes. What? In a flash, Leon was behind him. The hunter was terrified by that movement. He reached his massive hand towards the man, but the hunter managed to block that deadly hand. However, the sword shattered under Leon's strength. By inertia, the man fell hard to the ground. The hunter cursed. Damn it. You can predict my movements. Even if you were trained, how could you reach this level? Besides, this is absurd. You should have lost your mind to the berserk state by now. Damn it, has the drug not taken effect yet? Quick, take him down before he regains his senses. The hunter dashed towards Leon. Just like before, he quickly disappeared. The man froze again. Leon darted into the woods. His voice rang out. So you call this a hunt, as I thought there's poison on your needles. You want to turn me into a beast to hunt, don't you? The men looked around in confusion. The hunter expressed his concern. Good heavens. Even the echoes in the forest, Leon was hiding and observing from somewhere. His voice rose again. What harm have I ever done to you? If being born like this is a sin, should I just accept it and die quietly? A monster suddenly appeared behind the man. Well, the beasts you faced before, did they also die quietly? The hunter turned around in shock. A cold wind blew through the old forest. The group of hunters seemed outmatched by his speed. The man was terrified. This is insane. What kind of movement is this? Is he vaporizing the hallucinogen in his body to use it against us? The predator's eyes filled with fear. That damn grim reaper. It's like we're the ones being hunted now. When the smoke cleared, Leon was gone. The predator trembled in fear, exclaiming, I can't even lay a finger on him. Damn it, it's like he's toying with us. The man opposite him added, more importantly, the smoke that hid our scent has completely dissipated. At this rate, he's sure to head for Lord Herman. The predator fumed, that can't happen. We absolutely cannot let that happen. If a creature like that gets to Lord Herman, back in the present, Leon roared, am I a beast or a human? Or perhaps that doesn't matter anymore. Herman frowned, blaming himself. What form must I take to keep on living, mother? Hearing this, he spoke in a low voice. Is it still not enough? Oh well, I'll just ask my disciples directly. I'm merely curious about a beast's point of view, that's all. Anyway, just die with dignity in front of your mother. With that, Herman swung his sword. That's the only way for the princess to finally let go. Leon seemed small before his immense power. He stated firmly, I won't let you do whatever you want. A loud crash echoed amidst the debris. Herman gripped his sword tightly, gritting his teeth in anger. How rude. At that moment, the mother slowly sat down. Tylos, who was beside her, cursed under his breath. Damn, how cruel. Are all aura users this hot-tempered? Anyway, at that moment, Leon leaped high up. A prominent blue necklace hung around his neck. As Leon left, Tylos immediately said, everything is proceeding as planned. At that moment, Herman was focusing on casting a powerful magic. He frowned in anger. Then, Herman gripped his sword tightly. Without saying a word, he raised his sword high. This action made even Tylos exclaim, Good heavens! The staff in his hand suddenly shone brightly and shot forward at an astonishing speed. The spear pierced through the wooden roof, soaring powerfully upwards. A shining spear flew through the air. The predators witnessing the scene were completely shocked. One of them suddenly exclaimed, "Good Lord, that's Lord Herman's spear. Damn it, that ogre monster. Did it really manage to provoke him?" Lord Herman always carries a long spear because of its various benefits. But it doesn't suit the dignity of a swordsman, as spears are often looked down upon as weapons for common soldiers, farmers. However, Lord Herman never ignored its specialized strength for hunting. He even had it specially modified to infuse its core with aura. However, he only ever draws this weapon when it means he's absolutely certain. Then he shouted, "Did you see that? Lord Herman's position is confirmed. Something must have happened for him to signal us. We need to move at top speed now. This is a problem. If we move recklessly and get spotted by the night monsters, it'll be a pain for everyone involved." The predator gritted his teeth. "We were too complacent. We've lost the ogre now. The night's punishment is scarier than any monster right now." With that, they immediately set off. This was no time to hesitate. Meanwhile, Leon was speeding through the forest, deftly weaving past the trees in front of him, and so, he charged deeper into the forest. Just then, Leon leaped high into the air. "Is this the effect of the medicine?" he wondered. "I don't know why, but I feel dizzy and dazed. My body is moving on pure instinct. Is this what Dad gave me? What is my true nature, the principle of the hunt?" Leon couldn't stop questioning. It's when the prey is cornered, it will naturally turn the tables on the hunter, especially when the prey is human. Just then, a sudden flash of light came from behind. It was Herman's spear, moving at a breathtaking speed. Leon only noticed it at the last second, but unfortunately, he took the full, devastating blow. The spear impaled him completely. A plume of white smoke suddenly rose up from the dense forest. The village chief was observing Leonia's place with binoculars. "That's no cooking smoke. What's happening? It was so quiet just now." A young man with blonde hair tried to comfort the village chief. Ken said there would be trouble eventually because of who Leon is. He warned us to be extra careful so the village doesn't get involved. The old man heard this and retorted, "Are we supposed to just sit here and do nothing? We should at least go and check." The black-haired man beside them calmly said, "But Leonia has Leon. If it's something that even Leon can't handle, then there's nothing we could do. The lives of that mother and son might be in danger." Just then, the white smoke rose even higher into the sky. The village chief shouted in frustration, "So we can't do anything? Is the safety of the village all that matters? You don't get it. Leonia's situation might be the biggest threat to this village. In any case, if the defense team can't do anything, then prepare weapons and lanterns. I'm going myself," the black-haired man quickly called out. "Village chief." Seeing his determination, the blond young man relented. Well, I'll go with you too." A strong gust of wind rushed out of the silent forest. They moved with incredible speed and precision. Right after, packs of monster wolves appeared. However, that smoke-like presence quickly moved on. It was the group of hunters. They silently closed in on Herman. Immediately, they knelt before him. The predators didn't dare say a word. After a moment, Herman spoke grimly about the failure. "We were a few steps too slow." A terrified predator reported, "This is entirely our fault." His face grew darker. "I consider this a humiliation." The man immediately yelled, "Lord Herman, I urge you to be extremely cautious. Ogres are intelligent creatures, but they live by instinct and have never shown signs of rationality. But this one has added human intelligence to its base nature. My subordinate even heard it submitting like a person would. We are just simple hunters." The trembling subordinate, who handles arrangements for Lord Herman, raised his hand. He replied calmly, "Good. Considering the benefits, should I perhaps let you live?" He reached out with his empty hand. "The next issue will be what comes after this." But just as he spoke, the village chief and the villagers approached. Seeing them, Herman looked bewildered and tightened his grip on his sword. The predators watched them intently. Herman's expression turned even more sinister. "Oh my." The bait arrived just in time. The blond man saw the situation and yelled, "Freeze! What business do you have here?" The person next to him had to whisper, "Ken, be quiet." However, there was something they were unaware of. The village chief was standing still as a statue, his face deathly pale. Village chief? Could these people really be? Flashing back to the past, the reason for the look on his face was because, in his office, the old man thoughtfully advised, "Confronting the Lord never ends well. This is no different from a child's temper tantrum." The person across from him shouted back, "The taxes are up to 70% now. If we let the lords use this as an excuse to take everything, we'll all starve." After a long silence, the old man finally responded. "Is that your only reason? Tensions have been high ever since those farm girls were hanged in the public square. I would rather have run and died in battle that day than let the youngest be taken as a night slave." He couldn't stop the tears from streaming down his face. The old man's tone then shifted. "Resentment that clouds judgment is a dangerous thing, my son. But He didn't say anything else and just left. "I'm so sorry, father." And so, sometime later, under the leadership of his son, the rebellion against the Lord exploded more violently than anyone anticipated. The Lord, who had been silent for so long, as if he had predicted it all, raised his sword towards the rebels. Then, with just a single strike, before everyone's eyes, a blinding flash of light descended upon them. And the son, who was so brave in the beginning, now had to yield before him. He had retaliated for his authority and dignity. And the first great rebellion in the domain, as my son's corpse was hung in the public square. But the Lord remained as unconcerned as before, even letting me keep my post as quartermaster. And right when I received this report, in the great forest, a figure in a red cloak was crossing the hills. We fled from Sharon because I feared one thing: an unforgettable terror. From the moment a single knight slaughtered 400 new recruits in just 3 days without suffering a scratch. And now, he was once again confronting that old fear upon seeing the glowing sword in Herman's hand. It reminded the old man of his son's execution, making him tremble in fear. His limbs went weak, and he couldn't speak. Just then, the blond man saw his expression and shouted, "Village chief." After hearing the name of his son, "If" escaped the old man's lips, Herman's expression turned cold. In a flash, the village chief began to realize the grim situation, and next, the person beside him on the left was also split in two by them. With nowhere to run, the old man could only stand still and take it. Surrounded by them and unable to move, Herman approached. "This is nothing to be angry about. This is merely an execution in accordance with the law. When facing a knight, etiquette must always be prioritized. Did you not know that? Regardless, I will give you a special opportunity," he sneered. "You wouldn't want to see more executions, like this one." Meanwhile, elsewhere, Leon was enduring the pain inflicted upon him. A bullet was fired through his hip, causing him to collapse in exhaustion onto the nearby ground. Leon's mind was hazy as he asked himself, if being born like this was a mistake, should I just accept it and die quietly? In his deep blue eyes, there was always a glimmer of hope for peace, something he might never attain in his lifetime. What form must I take? Just then, hearing Leon scream, all the beasts gathered in one place, right in front of his broken body. After finding him, they simply stood still, surrounding him without making a move. Seeing this, his eyes widened. He wondered how he could possibly survive. And ogres appear everywhere, yet no one truly understands them. Suddenly, they swarmed closer to him. One wolf bent down near the wound. It didn't intend to tear him apart, but instead, it began to lick the injury. And there was a good reason for that. While agile and powerful monsters are abundant, only ogres follow a rule of their own. They insist on acting alone. So what principle do they follow? After treating Leon for a while, he was able to recover quickly and get back on his feet. The guide's voice continued to echo, to rule the forests they occupy. Leon exhaled the strong scent of blood, then let out a sky-shaking roar. And so, on that moonlit night, Leon set out once more. I can find no other way to describe it than with such extreme words, as if reminding himself that he must always keep trying. Meanwhile, with Herman's group, they were violently forcing the village chief to accompany them. Led by Herman, he strode proudly towards Ken's position. The village watchman, Ken, was looking into the distance with binoculars when he spotted Herman's squad approaching. He stood before the barrier, gathered power into his sword, and then unleashed a horizontal slash in their direction. This shocked Ken, as it was the first time he had witnessed a single slash that could generate such immense power. What the hell is going on? Just then, a frightened man ran over to Ken. "Elder, the damage hasn't reached this place yet. We need to assign roles quickly." "However," he shouted, "no, he's strong enough to destroy all of us in one blow." Him intentionally missing was a warning that we should surrender. Become hostages. Don't provoke him. We must try to appease him at all costs. But when Ken got a clear look at their group, he saw that their elder was also being led away. He immediately stopped his comrades. "Wait." Then he looked closely at Herman's face. Then he turned to the blond man, Jack, and asked. Jack replied, "I heard they also captured a few others with him, including the guards." "What?" After hearing this, he immediately took off running. The search party must retreat immediately. Quickly confirm the identities of the captured. From now on, I will find a way to buy some time. Jack saw this and tried to dissuade him. Elder, that's too dangerous. However, the man was insistent on going down. If anything happens, lead all the villagers through the escape tunnel to the main hall. What? He gritted his teeth and thought. If it's them, their lives are in danger. He couldn't help but curse. Damn it. While waiting for them to come down and negotiate, if everything in the world went as you wished, why would there be a need for limits? Why would you need to calculate benefits? Do you think you can climb from the bottom of society to this point based on willpower alone? Of course, I don't belittle the hardships you've endured, but considering the current situation, no one needs an artist of low birth. Only by accepting that willpower isn't enough can you focus on tangible benefits. Meanwhile, after a moment of waiting, an arrow suddenly shot toward him, a declaration of war. Let me give you a proper welcome. Ken's face was cold. Perhaps this noble knight doesn't understand how we talk around here. This made him laugh excitedly. Are you trying to stall for time? He then pointed his sword at Ken's face. You think that little trick will work? As he finished speaking, he shot off one of Ken's arms as his answer, causing the nearby village chief to panic. No, Ken. Hearing Ken's groans, the old man began to cry and beg. I am the village chief here. Please, punish me. They know nothing. He was ready to sacrifice himself. Please forgive them. This made Herman slightly annoyed, and without hesitation, he struck again. He aimed to scare the village chief by intentionally missing to his right side. However, he didn't stop there. He continued to toy with them, using Ken's body for his amusement, causing the man to endure several more blows. In the end, this is just the opening act to properly provoke the prey. As he finished, he slashed again. A beam of light flew right over the man's head. It struck the wall behind him. Then, he sent two subordinates charging forward. We must drench this pathetic forest in the stench of blood. However, the two subordinates weren't aiming for him, but for the mighty Leon behind him, who carried an aura of extreme killing intent, here to settle the score. This surprised Ken. Seeing this, Herman also grew excited and charged forward. You want to play? He then slashed horizontally at him. Leon quickly retreated, but Herman immediately launched his next attack. He thrust his sword straight at him. Suddenly, a massive beam of light illuminated the entire area. Everything became a blur. When the attack ended, Herman paused and scanned his surroundings. Seeing no one there, he shouted in frustration, Is that all you have to oppose my will? However, he was unaware that Leon had already appeared behind him. Herman sensed it and whipped around. I don't see anything special. He slashed forcefully in his direction again, but still saw no sign of him. This frustrated him. What a disappointment. However, a second later, a wolf suddenly bit Herman's arm. At the same time, the other wolves also charged forward, causing him to freeze for a moment. The commotion shook the entire area. The hunter stood with his back turned, enveloped in smoke and dust. He coughed up a large mouthful of blood. The hunter's expression darkened. I was too careless. Dust and steam are everywhere, completely blocking my vision. More importantly, this vapor is the smell from the monster's wounds mixed with steam. Damn it, it's just like a hunting trap. The pack of wolves began to tear at the corpse on the ground. The gruesome sight made the hunter grit his teeth. They continued to watch the pack of monsters as they tore off a piece of human flesh. The gaze of one of the beasts met the hunters. They were like demons from hell, with blood dripping down their fur. The man felt a chill as he stared intently at the scavengers. Just then, Leon attacked from behind. It's like he's toying with us in this forest. He came all this way just to play games? Unexpectedly, in a moment of distraction, a monster bit his leg. The hunter quickly swung his sword to fend it off. Damn it. The beast continued to growl fiercely. It bit the hunter's unarmed hand, drawing blood. The man's eyes widened in shock. As Leon also lunged forward to attack, the hunter's gaze filled with fear. This is bad. Just as he feared, Leon's hand shot straight for his neck. In an instant, he slammed the hunter to the ground. His body slammed into the ground, still acting defiant, huh? Leon glared at the predator with a resentful look. The man spoke up once again. If you were going to beat me to a pulp like this, why did not you just kill me then, so you still have something you want to show me? You want to prove that you are different. His sensitive spot was touched, and Leon's eyes wavered for a moment. A flash of light appeared, as a sword came swinging down. The predator, the one who struck, was none other than Herman. Leon quickly moved to dodge his second sword strike. His eyes sharpened. Herman smirked contemptuously. In an instant, Leon launched an attack. The area fell silent for a moment. He struggled on the ground while Herman muttered with a sneer. You half-breed, do you even know what a knight is? Now you are about to learn. In the most painful way possible, I will show you the difference in skill between us. It was still nighttime. A faint light shone down below. Typhon let out a horrifying laugh. He was currently inside a thatched cottage. Typhon's voice echoed in the night. That monster used to care so. If he ran away without looking back like that, it must be because of the order his mother desperately pleaded for. The mother's hand trembled with every word from Typhon. You act so tough, but when you are alone with me, you are still afraid, are not you? She looked him straight in the face and replied, It is a mother's duty to worry about her child, of course. If there is a reason to be afraid, I must trace it back. So I ask you, what must I do now? To appease your anger towards my son. These words made Typhon burst out laughing again. Only then did he explain. How pitiful. How could someone who once lived in luxury, as a noble lady of the empire, fall to such a pathetic state? But never mind. Whether that night or that monster returns, there is no time left, so I will skip the details. And if I hold a grudge, is not it because of that monster son of yours? Now show me one more time. That spirit you are trying to hold on to until the very end. The mother's eyes were a mix of fear and discomfort regardless of the situation. That look that once treated me like trash. Her eyes widened in surprise as Typhon approached, speaking. Only then will I have the confidence to mercilessly crush this arrogance. His hand was reflected in the mother's eyes. Unexpected. He was so shocked he could not hide his expression. Cullen appeared with a weapon in hand, successfully separating Typhon from the mother. He cried out in astonishment, as blood continued to flow from his body. What a Beneslot. Meanwhile, he immediately unleashed several powerful slashes forward, but Leon still managed to dodge them gracefully. He angrily stared intently at him. Seeing this, Herman became even more frantic. Are you going to keep running away? As soon as he finished speaking, he brought his sword down directly at Leon. Not backing down, Leon shot forward. A dense stream of mana erupted powerfully from both of them. A brilliant stream of mana continuously poured out of his body. If it is not hunt or be hunted, this will never end. At that moment, Leon realized something. Did something just escape? Herman stood up calmly. Even so, that is a power I have never seen before. Do not tell me a half-breed like you could become the king of the forest in such a short time. But is that all you have got? The orc mob got angry and raised its hand, preparing to attack, just as it was about to strike. Herman jumped up nimbly. The enraged orc mob immediately turned its head, but he swung his sword and slashed at it. In a single blow, it writhed. He slowly. How dare you do that to a knight? How could you? However, Leon slowly retorted. You were able to set a trap for me like that. Even in that state, a knight truly is different from the usual crowd. As soon as he finished speaking, Herman suddenly dashed away. Seeing this, he suddenly spoke scornfully. He is not even aiming for my vital spots. At that moment, Herman continued to ramble. A knight like me, and a piece of trash from Juvenia like you. Do not you forget your place. Instantly, an intense beam of light shot towards Leon. A dense mana enveloped the sword, but because he was too careless, Leon was struck by the blade. Seeing this, Herman smirked mockingly. Let me show you the difference between us. From below, he raised his sword high. A powerful thrust shot straight up. Seeing this, Herman burst out laughing gloatingly. He stabbed frantically. However, Leon quickly countered with a powerful swing of his arm. He lunged forward and grabbed Herman's entire body. Then Leon used all his strength to drag his body away. Red blood splattered all over the ground. The corpses of the monster wolves were also scattered there. On this side, the elder was leaning down to help Ken up when he suddenly paused, noticing the gentle sunbeams creeping in and illuminating their bodies. At this moment, Leon raised his hand, lifting Herman high. He continued to curse. You piece of trash from Juvenia, slave of the orcs. A thing like you dares to push a knight of the Six Lands to this extent. However, Leon did not react much. After a moment, he frowned slightly. What do those words even mean to me? I have already surpassed what you call a knight, and I can do it again and again. At this, Herman's hand trembled uncontrollably. Then he spoke in rebuttal. The way you cling to that title. Do not tell me you are also from Juvenia, Leon stammered. What, I never wanted things to go this far? You arrogant thing. Do you have any idea how much I had to sacrifice to climb this high? As soon as he finished speaking, he decisively crushed Herman's head. A gentle sunbeam shone down on the wooden house. Then a woman limped out. It turned out to be the mother slowly walking out. She watched with a worried and intense gaze, her brows slightly furrowed. A moment later, the mother slowly turned her head. Her eyes stared intently towards the wooden house. Inside, a figure gradually appeared. It was Leon. The mother looked at him silently, not saying a word. Then she began to scold him. So you still went and fought them? I told you to run and hide, but Leon refused. I could not. It seems they were planning to use the villagers as bait. Hearing this, the mother helplessly closed her eyes tightly. Then she spoke softly. But son, you could have died fighting them. Are you willing to die for them? That village once abandoned you. After hearing this, he quickly explained, but they took us in. They were just scared for a moment. They are weak. And before he could finish, Leon suddenly fell silent. Seeing her son like this, the mother just replied softly, even so, that is not a reason for you to throw your life away. Suddenly, they both fell silent again, she continued, and because of this, they will find a way to abandon us once more. Those words made Leon freeze. He suddenly remembered the battle that just took place. Leon glanced over. He saw the elder behind him watching everything intently, then the elder's face clearly showed fear. Back to the present. Leon closed his eyes tightly. Suddenly he spoke up. Perhaps you are right, mother. The mother just nodded gently. Leon sadly turned away. To live in this world, behaving as you say is the right way. More importantly, are you hurt, mother? What happened to that guy named Typhon? The mother looked up at her son. He left as soon as the night did not come back. Leon replied, I see. His mother suddenly said, you must be tired too. We can clean up everything later. You should rest now. He obediently listened. Maybe I should get some sleep. I will clear a spot for you to rest too. After saying that he busied himself with cleaning, the mother just watched him intently without saying anything more. Suddenly Leon stammered. Actually, I think if I do this, I can continue to live with you, mother. Please do not ever tell me to run away again. Those words stunned the mother. She was silent as sweat rolled down her face. A while later, the moon was high in the sky. She quietly bent down and covered Leon with a warm blanket. The mother sat quietly in a chair with a pensive look. Leon was sleeping soundly beside her, and so, she remained silent. Meanwhile, the villagers gathered around the fire as the white-haired old man stood wordlessly. At the same time in Perron village, the elder sat quietly at a table, constantly gritting his teeth. Outside, as the fire blazed high, the elder suddenly recalled Leon's image from the day of the attack. From Uraka. I blamed you for my son's death, and also because of that child. Sweat quietly trickled down his face. In a world like this, you of all people should know best what it means to be noticed by a knight, and just how dangerous that is. Right then, he suddenly froze as a blue light flared up, illuminating the space. Cutler suddenly, have you been watching everything from the start? He simply replied coldly, I told you this day would come. For the past 14 years, there have been countless close calls, but this time is different, as long as a knight is involved. The princess's safety cannot be guaranteed. His words made the elder flustered. Is it because of the witness? That mercenary named Tylock? I know a capable superior who can silence him completely. All measures have been prepared. You can rest assured. But Cutler cut him off. I've already handled everything. The elder froze at his words, his eyes filled with surprise. He then calmly asked, does that mean you've already contacted Leonia? However, Cutler remained calmly silent. Inside the simple wooden house, the sad mother quietly shed tears. The sad mother quietly shed tears,